I want to hear a story about your callback or a callback or audition.
I have a, excuse me.
Jesus, dude, press the cough button.
I wish we could get that out. Do that beer, man, that IPA. I have a horrible audition story. Actually, I think it was probably one of the worst auditions I've ever had since I've been in LA. And
go on.
Big casting director. Not going to say who it was, but she cast a lot of very well-known TV shows. And I went in for, I think it was for like a guest star. Yeah, it was, wait. I think it was, might have been a guest star or co-star. Don't know. Anyway, so I showed up at the audition.
Drama or comedy?
Drama. Fully prepared, but the role was a translator. Like the character was actually translating from Spanish to English, right? So there's two different characters.
You can do that, right?
I speak Spanish. So one of the characters was saying something to me in English, and then I had to translate this to a different character in Spanish, and then he would reply in Spanish, and then I would say something in English, right? Very obvious. So I walked in the audition, decided, which I never do ever again anymore, that I'm not taking the sides in with me. I left them outside of the room. I was like, I got this. I already know it. Ready to go.
You're not doing that anymore?
I always bring it in now, all the time now, all the time, because you never know. And I'd rather have it there than not have it at all.
Yeah, and just put it on the side.
Just put it on the side, put it on the ground. Anyway, so I didn't have it with me. The first thing she says to me is, hey, by the way, I'm not going to do any of the Spanish lines. And all right, let's go ahead and do it then. And I'm just like, and I had to process this for a second because I'm thinking like, okay, so how am I going to know my cue of like what he's saying? And then when I'm talking in my head, I was processing all this information. And then I was thinking like, no, you can, Johnny, you can do this. You got it. Like, you're fine. And then she's like, all right, here we go. And then like it started. And then I just stood there with a blank face. And I said something to one character. And then she skipped whatever the other character was saying. And then apparently it was my line again. And then I was just like, hey.
So she's doing the English lines or the Spanish
just
lines?
The English ones. Right. No Spanish lines.
And do you have to do it in Spanish?
I have to do lines in Spanish, and the character was talking to me in Spanish.
Right. So she's not giving your setup lines.
Exactly.
Your cue lines.
No. She was only giving me like the ones that were in English. And I was like, well, then I don't know who's talking to me at what point or what, like, and so I stopped her and I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry. It's a little difficult to know where I am in the story. Like if you're not saying the Spanish lines, you know, I'm a little lost, you know? And then she kind of was just like, she did like a heavy sigh. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's just try it again. And I'm just like,
so she didn't switch.
No.
She doesn't speak Spanish, probably.
Yeah, but then bring someone that speaks Spanish. They're going to cast a Spanish talking show.
Couldn't you just say anything in Spanish? Like she wouldn't have known.
Yeah, but they would have just
producers.
Yeah, they're gonna figure it out. It would have been. I would look stupid. But anyway, so
because you didn't look stupid.
I know, right? So anyway, we did it again, and it was mediocre at best because I'm basically now just saying my lines back to back without nothing in between, and so like it doesn't make any sense. And she wanted me to shift eye lines between each character, and I'm like, I don't even know who I'm talking to because you're not saying the lines. And then like literally the audition was over. And then she did one of these. She looked at the camera operator and she was just like, "Thank you."
Double take, eye roll. And
I was so pissed off. I like walked out and I was just like, "Yeah, thanks." Like I just like very sternly and I just left. And I was so irate. Like I thought, how lazy are you? You know? Yeah. I was so upset.
Did you ever watch that episode and who got that part?
Didn't see it, but the funny thing is that like, well, that casting director's never bringing me back again.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, I got called in for a recurring guest star, and I got a callback for it for the same show. And I was in the callback room with her again because the first audition was with a different girl.
So she did call you back.
She called me back in. Now the first audition though was with a different girl, right? A white girl. Keep in mind the other girl.
Wait, the casting associate is a
casting
white girl?
Associate.
Okay.
And first thing I asked her when I walked in is like, hey, there's dialogue in Spanish. Are you saying the Spanish lines? And she said, well, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? Well, that's what I thought, right?
I've been hurt before.
So, and anyway, in the callback, I was with that original casting director, which was really funny. And I asked her the same question. Hey, are you reading the Spanish lines? and the producers are in the room and the director. And she's like, yeah, of course. And all I thought was like, wow.
You should have went on a rant.
I should have, man. I didn't get it anyway, so it didn't matter. But
I'm sorry, dude.
No, but it was a funny moment. But then at the same time, I was like, come on. Like, wouldn't you want the person to do well? Like, why are you setting him up to fail?
That's on her. I feel she just didn't want to admit her own insecurities.
I think for every success story, there's 3 stories like that, you know?
If there was a success story, there isn't one. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Except for this podcast.